Saudi Arabia has long been a supporter of the rebels clashing in Syria, especially considering that it is sending weapons and young men to join the civil war. Recently, the country's leading religious figure, Grand Mufti Abdulaziz al-Sheikh, called for young men to stay home and pray instead of fight. He said that this is all wrong, it's not obligatory, these are feuding factions and no one should go there. I do not advise anyone to go there. Going to a land that you do not have experience with, you will be a burden to them. What they want from you is prayer. Reports indicate that thousands of young Saudi men journeyed to Syria in 2012 to join the rebel forces. China is pressuring lawyers from the Uyghur region for a guarantee that family members do not grow long beards and wear burqas. In an effort to curb radical religious violence, China has a rule about practicing religion. One can practice any religion he or she wants as long as it's registered and licensed. Part of the licensing process requires signing a pledge denouncing extremism. It also prohibits participation in illegal religious activities. The Judicial Affairs Department in the region of Xinjiang stated lawyers must commit to guaranteeing that family members and relatives do not wear burqas, veils, or participate in illegal religious activities, and that young men do not grow long beards. The Chinese call this pledge an important force to protect social stability. So far, 57 Islamic lawyers and 6 law students have signed the pledge to combat extremism. The country has stepped up the pressure on extremist views even further after an incident near Tiananmen Square where 3 people were killed and over 40 were injured last October. Opponents fear Chinese retribution for operating a religious house without a license. One lawyer was quoted as saying, "China's judicial reform forces Uyghur lawyers into a choice: safeguard the sanctity of their duty as lawyers and lose their personal freedoms, or violate their professional ethics and support China's suppression of the Uyghur people." The Infidel notes that the suppression of dress and beard length has no influence on how one thinks. We'll send the Chinese a note. The sound of US District Judge Barbara Crabb's gavel may have struck fear within the American religious world when she delivered an important decision. The law allowing the clergy to deduct their housing allowance from their income tax report is unconstitutional. This allowance includes any cost related to housing, be it rental or mortgage payments. According to Annie Laurie Gaylor, co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, it's a really big deal. A church currently could pay a minister $50,000 but designate $20,000 of it as housing allowance so that only $30,000 would be taxed as salary. In a 2002 statement made by then US Rep. Jim Ramstad of Minnesota, the tax exemption would save the clergy about $2.3 billion in taxes from 2002 to 2007. According to Judge Crabb, the exemption provides a benefit to religious persons and no one else, even though doing so is not necessary to alleviate a special burden on religious exercise. Her decision is based in part on the fact that US Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew and Acting IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfel were unable to explain why paying taxes on housing expenses is more burdensome for ministers than for the rest of country's citizens. The FFRF's Annie Laurie Gaylor said that once the clergy get wind of it, I expect they will be very upset. According to the Foundation's lawyer, Richard L. Bolton, the court has simply recognised the reality that a tax-free housing allowance available only to ministers is a significant benefit from the government unconstitutionally provided on the basis of religion.